you're obviously playing a character who has, within the play, an extraordinarily personal and intense relationship with another character. And in reading your notes, I imagined that maybe you imagined yourself and one of your own sons when you were thinking about how you would attempt to understand the role of the ghost. So it seemed to me that the visual signing that you did with Dan intensified the relationship between the ghost and Hamlet. And I sensed that that was part of how you got to that terrific moment in 1/5 that I mentioned in my letter, when Dan signed, "Come, let us go together," to you, not to Marcellus and Horatio. And I'm 67 and I've been watching Shakespeare since I was 20 years old. And I have never seen that line played that way in Hamlet. It was one of those moments that I will never forget. So can you talk about how your sense of your relationship to Hamlet enabled you to make signing, quote, justified in the overall concept of the play, because that's the phrase that you used. What about that scene said to you, okay, I can make ASL make this scene more intense than it could be without the ASL? In other words, how did you integrate yourself into that moment?
With wings as swift as meditation, or the thought so loud.
It really wasn't up to me. It was up to Bill. Bill, the director, he knew it would work. And when he offered me the role, and I said, yeah, fine. There was no question. I've never really faced any hurdles for performing any role. The challenge will be to make the character believable. And Bill had already figured that out. He had met with Dan for over 60 hours beforehand, and they had discussions, and they discussed it between the two of them. I would have liked to be a fly on the wall to listen to their 60 hours of discussion, but I wasn't. So we decided that I was the deaf father, the deaf king, and Hamlet was my son. And of course, he had to sign with me because I'm deaf. You know, just like my own real family, my two hearing sons sign. You know, they started signing when they were born. They knew 30, 40 signs before they even spoke. That spoke verbally, their first word. Sign language was their native language. So Hamlet could sign. And my wife is hearing, and she can sign. Oh, Gertrude. You know, we were married, so she could sign with me. She doesn't sign in the play, and that's one artistic decision that we made. You know, we decided that Gertrude refused to sign with me, even though she could see me in that scene 1.5, if I had my numbers right. But she refused to sign. She doesn't want to see me again. She doesn't want to believe that I'm there and that I can see what's going on, what she's done to me. So she just refuses to look at me. And Dan, Hamlet, forces her to look at me and say, see, Dad's right there. But she wouldn't, and she wouldn't sign. So that was one conscious decision, artistic decision, that she would refuse to sign.
But she also turns away from you, right, at that moment? She literally does not look at you, not only not sign, but she doesn't look at you, right? Because in a discussion with Greta afterwards, I asked her, I said, did you play that scene in your closet so that the audience was to assume that you saw the ghost? And she said yes, but she didn't look at you, did she? Or did she?
She doesn't want to look at me.
She doesn't want to look at
She feels guilty. She's overwhelmed with guilt. She had married the man who killed her husband. It's incest. We talked about whether they had a thing going before I was killed, because I was gone to war often. So maybe did he go to bed with my wife while I was gone? So I don't know what the final decision was about that, but my feeling was that she wouldn't look because of guilt.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just barely in the ground before she married him. Before she married Claudius.
Yeah. Okay.
And going back to the use of ASL in the scene, it really adds a whole other layer, a whole other dimension. You know, the audience has to hear my words through my son.
That's what I want. So you see, that's what I'm after. So that necessity, visually for me and the audience, created an extremely intense relationship, because it was as if you as the father and Dan as the son shared something that you didn't share with anybody else. I guess that's what I wanted to say. That was my sense in the audience.
Right. And Hamlet was channeling his father. You know, I can't talk to the people. No one sees me. Well, the guards see me, but I can't talk to them. I want to only talk to Hamlet. So Hamlet was channeling me. The challenge was that we didn't want him to, let's say, interpret, you know, out loud our conversation. You know, that's not real. That wouldn't be real life. So if I'm talking to you and I'm signing to you and you know sign language, you wouldn't be speaking every word out loud.
Right, because I would follow the signs, right?
Yeah, you would know sign language. So on stage, that was the challenge. We didn't want him to parrot, you know, to parrot interpret for me that he says every word that I sign. We didn't want that. So it became Hamlet Jr. channeling the anger, the need for revenge from his own father. So I was putting it all onto him and to spur him into action. So we tried to find the artistic way, you know, and maybe you noticed that he didn't always interpret what I said. He didn't always voice it because he was shocked sometimes. You know, his uncle had poisoned his father. And my translation is so clear about what's going on, you know, that he took this poison and poured it into my ear. So he doesn't have to say anything at that part, but the audience knew we were talking about poison. You know, they could tell. So in all the plays that we do, well, not all, but there are some nice opportunities for me to communicate with the audience directly through gesturing, so I don't have to be dependent on someone voicing. So the audience really enjoys that because it's very clear what I'm doing with my movements and my gestures.
Okay, so when Hamlet says to you, "Nay, come, let's go together," my sense was, throughout that whole production, Hamlet sensed that you were always with him. And that's part of why you come back at the end of the play, right? Because you have been there with him.
Yes. I think we lost an opportunity for one more ghost appearance. in the what I call the toilet scene, when the king is throwing up, you know, in the toilet. Yeah. I thought, oh darn! During the summer, I thought, oh, I should have been up there above watching,
up on top.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I should have been watching, enjoying his discomfort, you know, his reaction to the play within a play. You know, I could have been watching, just enjoying it. I'm getting my revenge now because he's thrown up in the toilet and he's so worried, he's so distraught, and we caught him.
He's actually throwing up, right? And Claudius is throwing up in the toilet, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And he flushes it.
Yes. Yeah. So I thought, oh, shoot. I didn't think of it during rehearsals. We had so many complicated issues to work with the play. So after we got going during the summer, we became more comfortable and settled in. And we got more in the skin of our characters. I thought, oh, dang, that would have been a good opportunity for the ghost just to be watching. And me watching Hamlet talking and ready to kill my brother. Darn. And also maybe I could have even gotten a gun and been ready to shoot my brother. And then I see Hamlet come in and I think, oh, Hamlet's going to take care of it for me, and put my gun away. Oh, darn.